So a week of building some plans, coupled with my first interaction trying to get my daughter to do some chores for money, have inspired this week's commentary called Dead Money. Like I said, two things that really inspired this. One was an interaction with my daughter that I'll get to here momentarily. The second, of course, is just years and years, but in particular, a few plans that we built here at 10 Capital this week. And this concept, again, of dead money and really maximizing return, helping you not just survive, but thrive as relates to this interaction with my daughter. So first things first, I had to explain that even though, yes, a quarter is shiny and looks way cooler than a dollar bill, it is not worth as much. She got that pretty quickly, so I was offering her $1 to pick up some toys, which are, of course, everywhere in the Mitrovich household these days. And that led to a discussion of who's on these and dead presidents, et cetera, et cetera. But she's starting to get the value of $1. And of course, we all understand that it's on people's minds all the time with respects to costs. But one of the things that gets lost in a lot of the conversations is opportunity cost. The ability to, of course, make a better return than you might otherwise make. And cash, this might be our first commentary on cash. We'll talk a little bit about CDs and annuities as well. But really, dead money is what I wanted to touch on this week. I think when you go through plans, we talked last week, people will have a lot of angst on exactly what allocation they should have. They'll have a lot of angst around fees or expense ratios, and all of that's important. But what we found, and again, what the numbers show is outside of what you're spending, there are a lot of other places to maximize return, and one of them actually is the sometimes surprisingly large amount of money that people have in areas that pay them little to no rate of return. Again, thinking cash, we're thinking CDs, we're thinking fixed annuities. Start with CDs. So cash is pretty obvious. You're getting little to nothing on that. We'll get into the benefits of cash, of course, here in a minute. But one thing that people don't understand is how much the CD landscape changed post-2008 with a lot of the banking regulations that came down, a lot of the underlying types of paper bonds that banks used to be allowed to use that had very short duration, i.e. not a lot of interest rate risk, were very high in quality, not a lot of default risk. To make up CDs, they were no longer allowed to do. So if you think it's just a coincidence that these CD rates that once used to be pretty good went to virtually nothing and haven't bounced back quite like some other things, it's not. It gets back to, again, these new regulations that they have to deal with. Applies to savings accounts, a lot of different types of that are guaranteed, some money markets that are guaranteed as well. Why do people hold cash or CDs? Well, obviously they hold it for a few reasons. One is liquidity. The other is safety. And so when we get to eventually the solution, or at least one that people should consider, we're going to make sure to address that all the time, as well as talk about how there are some options that are actually even more accessible than CDs that, of course, can have terms that they're locked up for. This can apply to fixed annuities. If you look at a lot of fixed annuity rates, pretty small, and they're fixed. They have no chance of going up. So while we're certainly in the camp that interest rates are likely to stay low for long in general, we do think they'll creep up over time. But those fixed annuities are not going to creep up in lockstep. So how do we get into, again, something that can maybe pay us a little bit better rate today, but also has a better promise or some hope for paying us an even higher rate down the road? So what is this build up to this mysterious thing that I'm talking about? Really is the landscape that has come out of ultra short bond funds, some different prime money markets. Again, work with a whole host of different people across this range. It's pretty boring, but I would caution you, it can be complex. So we've seen a lot of different products get launched that have similar names that might lead people to believe they have similar underlying products, but they don't. What we're specifically focused on, if this is the niche, again, high degree of safety, attractive rates, give or take 3%, high degree of liquidity, same day liquidity, and day-to-day liquidity for clients. We want to find, again, all of this paper that's still certainly in existence, corporate and otherwise, that banks used to be able to use that they're no longer, has now been repackaged and brought out by a lot of different mutual fund companies, institutional fund companies, and these are the things we can access. These rates of return, while they may sound small, can have big, big impacts. And again, that's the point I'd have take people around. Of all the different places where you can make a difference, adding 1 to 2% on a meaningful part of your portfolio that might be at 0 or 1 can have a huge impact on what you can spend down the road. And so, in summation, the real cost is not in knowing your options. We know what drives people to do these things: safety, convenience, accessibility, security. But those same things can be met at least as equal, or in a lot of cases, certainly improved upon with other options. And knowing those options, again, is the real opportunity. So in closing, we see it time and time again. It all matters. It's important, but so many of the different areas that might go under the rug, whether it's that little bit of difference in spending or maximizing that cash, that CD, not getting sold, again, that expensive annuity, these are the places where you can really make big differences and drive different outcomes within a plan. Not knowing your options is a real cost that too often people don't think about. And in so doing, what's happening is they're making trade-offs like less travel for themselves, perhaps less an ability to support their grandkids, that they don't have to. They can still find, again, in this case, that liquidity, that security, that safety, and still be able to do more of the things that they love. The reasons you work with us, the reasons we encourage you to build a plan, the reasons we invite you to come explore all the different areas, again, of both your plans and your portfolios, is not about surviving, it's about thriving. And that's what we are here to help you do. And for so many of you, appreciate the opportunity.